Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Believe.
What's up, champs? Welcome to another episode of the Short Shifts Fantasy Hockey Podcast, brought to you by Keeping Karlsson. I'm your host, Jeremy Versillo. Joining me tonight, my pal and yours, Shams Benamor. Shams, how's it going? How's your fantasy week going? How's your playoff odds looking? What's up?
It's kind of in the balance right now. It's one of those situations where, I'm probably going to lose, and but it's not obvious enough that I could just give up. And then even if I lose, I'm probably out of the playoffs, but I still could get in. So it's just kind of keeping my heartstrings in. So it's kind of like one of those teams that you're going to see in the trade deadline coming up next week. They don't know if they should be sellers or buyers or just kind of sit around. So we'll wait and see, but fingers crossed.
My teams are doing pretty well. I mean, a couple teams already eliminated, but having a good week at least, I should be able to crawl into that consolation bracket and have my chance to fight for a 7th place finish. With that, let's look at some injuries and outjuries. First of all, 2 big-name early pick defensemen returned to action yesterday and today. First off, Quinn Hughes came back. I think he had an assist in his return. Got another game today. Good for you. Get your Quinn Hughes back in your lineup. And then the more interesting one, though, Noah Dobson returned to the lineup for the Islanders. But Tony DeAngelo is still on Power Play 1, and Dobson is splitting Power Play 2 with Adam Bourque. By splitting, I mean they're both on it, not that they're sharing the Power Play 2. Any thoughts here? I kind of had DeAngelo as a guy I was probably cutting as soon as Dobson came back, but now I'm like, oh, he's got 4 games next week. Maybe I'll juice the orange a little bit longer. What are your insights here?
The funny thing is that if I remember correctly, that DeAngelo doesn't actually have a power play point. All of his points have been at even strength. So even if he gets kicked off of the power play, maybe he'll still have some value. But the interesting thing is as I say that, he still somehow keeps power play 1. So, and this is one of the situations where you can kind of say it's split. You can kind of say, but in this situation, it's with the Islanders and their offensive capabilities. It's especially without Barzal, I'm not putting much weight behind this. It's if you have Dobson, obviously you're going to play him. If DeAngelo is already doing enough for you, I would keep him. Depends on how shallow or how deep your league is. You might be interested in keeping him, but I'm not expecting a big turn of events. And really what it does for me right now is that keep an eye out for, your Romanovs and your Pelliks and your other guys that might be seeing less ice time, because I'm guessing that Dobson, even though he's not going to get power play 1, he's going to be eating a lot of minutes. So those other guys might be getting less banger stats overall.
Also worth noting that Ryan Pulock returned to the lineup in addition to Noah Dobson. I agree with you about, everybody getting less ice time. They're not going to rely on your Romanov-DeAngelo pairing as much now. I think at one point DeAngelo was getting 25 minutes a night, which is crazy for a guy that last time in the NHL, he was kind of a shelter him offensive defenseman type, going to playing first D minutes. I kind of agree. Those power plays aren't very good. Kyle Palmieri and Brock Nelson are also on power play 2, so it may even be a split unit type of situation. But that's enough of that. On to some other defenseman news. Adam Fox got moved to IR after a pretty gruesome looking injury on, was it Tuesday, I think, was their game. He could be out for a while. Keandre Miller also got hurt, who would be the heir apparent to that power play 1, but it looks like he's okay. What are you doing with some of the Rangers power play options coming up, or Rangers defensemen, especially looking at the fact that the Rangers play Friday, Sunday, Monday, Wednesday, which is a pretty good streaming schedule for the next couple days. Is there any value to be gained here?
Well, the interesting thing is that kind of in relation to what I was saying before about banger stats is that interestingly enough, now we'll have to wait and see if they're actually going to deploy this in a game, is that during practice, they actually had a 5-forward power play. And to keep in mind, Miller was at the practice. I don't know how involved he was, so I'm not sure if they're just kind of letting him off to the side. So that's why I'm saying I'm not guaranteeing that they're going to stick with the 5-forward power play. Is that the interesting thing is that I'm not looking for, if I'm picking up a defenseman, I'm looking for a guy that is going to be eating those extra minutes that Fox had. And then maybe even if Miller comes back, maybe they don't want to lean on him as much. So maybe looking at like a Brendan Schneider or like just one of those guys that just kind of had a couple of hits and blocks. Maybe they just add an extra hit and block because they're just on the ice a little bit more. And maybe that boosts a person from not like a waiver wire fodder to bottom of your roster D. I'm not expecting anyone to go into like a Mason Warai kind of jump in value here unless they do renege on that 5-forward power play.
I agree with you. I think that Keandre Miller would be an obvious add if they do put him on power play 1, which I kind of think they will. After that, it may even be Zach Jones for power play 1, who I would not be interested in adding. Braden Schneider may get some more ice time, get that Romanov-type bump for banger stats. Overall, though, it's kind of an ugly situation. Also, please be careful when looking at the power play tweets, because I have made this mistake. They have 2 Millers on the Rangers. So if you see a Miller on power play 1, keep in mind that it's probably JT and not Keandre. And yeah, I may have made that mistake earlier this week. Just wanted to let you know that that is something that may happen. More defenseman injuries. Man, this is like an all-defense show. Roman Josi is injured for the Preds and is not playing tonight. They actually have scored tonight, and one of the goals was on the power play. Scrolling up, I think it was Justin Barron was the defenseman on that power play, but it looks like a power play 2 anyway. I don't know what's going on there. And then Drew Doughty is also day-to-day, which is never great coming back from a major injury. Hopefully it was a bit of a rest night and a little bit of soreness. But that would make Brent Clark and Jordan Spence more relevant. Anybody else from those 2 teams that you like?
So the thing to keep in mind is that all the Roman Josi news is just kind of in the air. So I wouldn't be making too much of a quick news until we have something set. So all that we've heard is that he's being evaluated. We'll find out more. So hopefully by the time the Sunday Mega Show comes, we'll be able to have a better understanding of how to do an action on that. And then also, Drew Doughty is traveling with the team on the road trip. So depending on the severity, he could come back the very next game. So same idea. I wouldn't be making too swift of an action on replacement guys until we have a better idea of how long they're out.
And last but not least, minor defense injury. Chris Tanev is day-to-day and unlikely to play Friday for the Leafs. I advocated cutting this card, but you mentioned very correctly that he's very valuable in blocks leagues for categories or any league that just values blocks a lot. At one point, he was leading the leagues in them. So Chris Tanev, keep an eye on him. And related Leafs news, it sounds like Max Pacioretty will be returning for them tomorrow. But he is also playing on the 4th line last I saw, although he was averaging like 4 hits a game before he got hurt. So maybe that's a useful banger value, 4 hits and 2 shots every game and power play 2 time. I could get behind Max Pacioretty as an ad. With that, let's go to our ad break and we'll be right back.
It might not feel like it, but spring is right around the corner. Know how you can tell? Golfers are hitting the links, and we have some tournaments to talk about. And if you want to do more than just talk, put your money where your mouth is. Get in on all the tee to green action with DraftKings Sportsbook. From Thursday's opening round through the closing round Sunday, DraftKings Sportsbook has you covered with tournament props, live betting, odds boosts, and so much more. If you've never bet on golf before, it's easier than you think. Just pick something simple like a golfer to win the tourney and make your pick. It's that easy. I'm looking at the odds now for the tournament. I do not know any of these people, but it looks like Scotty Scheffler is the favorite. So do you think Scotty Scheffler is going to win? Or let's see, who has the highest odds? You know who has really long odds? Patrick Rogers. He must be a real nobody, but maybe a nobody's won golf tournament. You know, I don't even know. But if you think Patrick Rogers is going to win this golf tournament, that maybe take a look at DraftKings Sportsbook. By the way, here's something special for first timers. New DraftKings customers bet $5 to get $150 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets when you bet just $5 only on DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/ice.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Because Progressive offers discounts for paying in full, owning a home, and more. Plus, you can count on their great customer service to help you when you need it, so your dollar goes a long way. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save on car insurance. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states or situations. Listeners, are you looking for a shortcut to better auto insurance for you? Something that takes all the research off your plate. Something that's easy. Something that matches you at lower rates. Something genius. That's where NerdWallet comes in. These nerds have already done the work for you. Just answer a few questions and ta-da, you'll be matched with top insurance providers in your area. Find the right rate for you today at nerdwallet.com. After all, using NerdWallet is more than just smart, it's genius. Not all applicants will qualify for the lowest monthly payments. NerdWallet Insurance Services, Inc. CA resident license number OK92033.
Welcome back, everyone. To get you back from this, let's talk about some hot and cold streaks coming out of the Four Nations break. We've now had 3 to 4 games per team, so can kind of see who's doing well. First off, I have a pair of Flyers who are red hot. Matvei Michkov seems to have benefited from the rest, as young guys often do, not used to playing an 82-game season. He has 8 points in the 3 games back from the break, 14 shots too. He also hasn't even finished that third game, so it's really like 2.5 games. He's certainly responding to some of the criticism and demotion on the lines that he was seeing. He's just a really good player. I will caveat this that 2 of these games are against Pittsburgh, who have been awful on defense and in net. So maybe you can't expect, a 160, 200 point pace from him the rest of the season, just saying. And second of all, Rasmus Ristolainen has also benefited from this. He is up to 5 points in the last 2.5 games or so. He's getting PP1 time. I don't know if any of the points are power play points, but he's clearly contributing on offense on top of being a moderate banger, I'll call him. He used to be a great banger defenseman and now is a bit older and doesn't hit, 3 or 4 times a game as he did at times. But I think those guys may be somewhat available in leagues. Shams, have you added either of them or looking to add either of them?
I think you had your chance with Michkov. I believe there was like a long lull in the middle of the season where some people may have given up, but the people that picked him up are obviously keeping a hold of him. So maybe if you're in a shower league, you might be able to find Michkov. And then Risto, I'm a big fan of him. And the idea is that what I like about both of these players is that they're both put in places to succeed. Like, Ristolainen is put on the top penalty kill. He's getting a lot of minutes at even strength, so those banger stats are going to be coming there as well, as long as the power play time that even I won't depend on that because he's going to get value elsewhere, and then that power play time just puts over the top. And then the nice thing is that with Michkov, he's playing with Tippett and Couturier, which you could say it's the top line. You don't have Konecny, but he's played with Kuzmenko and Watton. So at the very least, it's like line 1A. So both of those players are being put into places to succeed and are succeeding. So I wouldn't be calling this as one of those, Philip Deneau gets 3 goals in 2 games. It's like, oh, he's going to be a roster lock. Like, these guys are in a position to succeed. And at the very least in the midterm, I'd be expecting them to continue to succeed.
I have regrets in one of the leagues I'm fighting for playoffs. I had the opportunity to add Matvei Michkov Saturday or Sunday. Remember, he played Saturday, Tuesday, Thursday, and I couldn't fit him in my lineup Saturday, so I'm like, I'll wait for Tuesday, and someone sniped him from me at unlock Monday morning before leading into the Tuesday game, and I'm like, I should have made that ad, and granted, I got Mason McTavish instead, who has also done some good things for me, but I'm also looking to add Risto. The Flyers play 4 games next week. They're one of many teams that play 4 games next week. I won't go too far into matchup maximizer stuff, but if you're really into optimizing moves or in a high move league, next week is fascinating. Feel free to tag me or message me about this. I have literally spent hours looking at next week's schedule for my leagues already. And this week isn't even through Thursday yet. So yeah, I've wasted a lot of my time. Next up, we have a cold streak goalie, and normally we try to avoid goalies on hot and cold streaks because the number of starts and the wide variety of factors for them make it hard to judge. But this goalie is absolutely cold. Why don't you tell us about Alex Nedeljkovic?
He is just, there's cold, like, this is like ice cold, like, I'm not even sure glacier, like, honestly, it's we were talking before the start of the show, is that this person is just like so cold that basically before this game, he was like letting in 11 goals before the since the break, starting again tonight, and he got pulled. I forget like exactly when, but he's been pulled again. I think it was off of at least 3 goals. And we're getting to the part now that he stormed off, slammed the door, broke his stick. Like, he is just like rattled beyond repair. That even before the game, he was speaking about how he's letting the team down. So like, this is a situation that like people joke that I like to roster bad goalies. Like, I have him in a categories league where I just wanted to get some saves and potentially a win. But like, the way he's playing now, I'm not expecting a win anymore. Like, even the chance of a win. And he poisons your goals against so much that even if you're in a categories league, you're throwing away literally 2 of your 3 stats just for saves. And the worst part is that like he's getting pulled, so you can't even guarantee that you're getting the saves. That this is going to be a situation where I would be better off I have 3 goalies in this categories league. I might be better off just having 2 goalies and just taking another forward defenseman that might be getting benched on heavy days, because that will be more value and might actually win a stat for me versus actually playing him on 1 or 2 days as a goalie. That's how bad he's playing right now.
The silver lining for anybody who was unfortunate enough to stream Ned this week is, well, not this week, but today, is he is out of the woods for the loss today. Pittsburgh managed to score 3 goals after he got pulled. But to tell you how bad he's been, his goals saved above average for the last 3 games is a negative 7.5. Being negative 7.5 in your goals saved above average is a unimpressive mark for the season. Doing that in 3 games is impressive. My hot take on this situation with Nedeljkovic being really bad for 3 games and Blomqvist not being much better the 1 game he played, they play a back-to-back Saturday, Sunday. I wonder if Tristan Jarry gets one of those starts. I would be keeping an eye on the call-ups. He has been a reasonable, slightly above average goalie for his 11 starts in the AHL. I think he's got like a 247 and a 913. Not terrible. I'm not sure if I would add him because I think a lot of these goalie struggles are due to Pittsburgh being old and defensively porous and probably about to get worse at the trade deadline. But, if you really need a goalie, like, keep an eye on Blomqvist and Jarry, especially with his tantrum after getting pulled tonight and being pulled for the 2nd time in 3 starts. I doubt Ned sees the net anytime soon. Like, it's a bad situation. At least Pittsburgh scoring, I guess. Like, go Crosby, go Erik Karlsson having a great night tonight. But yeah, it's not pretty. Next up, back to the hot streaks. We have 2 streamer type hot streaks just to get you going. Nick Paul has goals in 4 straight games, although he hasn't scored tonight and that game's almost over, so that may be ending. But he's also done it on 6 shots, so probably not much. It's standard stream or hot streak. And similarly, Mavrik Bourque on Dallas has been playing on the first line. He has 3 points in 3 games since the break. He also has 7 points in his last 8 games dating back to before the break. The downside is, in practice this morning, he was playing on the 4th line with 3 other players. So someone in that trio is going, or someone in that group is going to get scratched. And he wasn't shooting a ton. Do you have any interest in streaming Nick Paul or Mavrik Bourque for a 4-game Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday schedule next week?
So the way I look at Nick Paul is just, I kind of look at him as like the random Florida Panthers non-big guys, is that they're deep enough that these players that are not the top gun guys will be able to be in a position to get points, but like they're not guaranteed. So depending on how your roster construction is and like where your light games are, that if you could fit in Nick Paul for like a couple of games, like I'd be looking maybe elsewhere, like trying to get like maybe a higher line player or someone maybe in a better position. But if you say, hey, my top option is Nick Paul, do I use a move on him? I would be fine using a move on him. Now, the question is, though, with Dallas, is I am afraid of any player that is not a big name player on that team, because they literally scratched Stankoven for a game. And what the coach said is like, we literally said, we got so many good players, some of them are just going to have to sit. So like the way that's going to happen is that unless you are like I would even not be surprised if like a Granlund or a Dadonov gets like a rest game, make sure they're fine for the playoffs. Like unless you are like a Hintz, Robertson, like Duchesne level player on that team, I would not be surprised if you get benched. Obviously, it would be varying level of percentage. So I would be wary of going in with Bourque, thinking I'm going to get all of his games.
I think that's a really good point. On Dallas especially, they're kind of in no man's land for the playoff spot, where they're 11 points behind Winnipeg. So they're not going to catch Winnipeg. And then they are, 6 points clear of Colorado with 2 games in hand. So they're relatively safe from the wild card race. So like you said, they could start resting guys who, aren't Robertson and Hintz. And honestly, given the injury history of Rope Hintz, he could get rested too. I'm very bearish on Dallas for the rest of the season as far as fantasy goes. I agree. And then with Nick Paul is the guy who I always look at for streaming when he's got a good schedule and somehow never add. I think it's just like, great last resort stream. But as I mentioned, next week is a lot of good schedules, a lot of 4-game weeks, a lot of Monday, Wednesday, Saturday, Sunday for some weird reason. Nick Paul probably doesn't make the cut for a streamer next week unless you're in a 16 or 18 team league. With that, thank you for joining us. If you enjoyed our show, please consider joining the Keeping Karlsson Patreon group at keepingkarlsson.com/patron. Super supporters receive ad-free episodes, and you can interact with all the hosts like Brian, Elon, myself, Shams, Lewis, and everybody else who jumps in to do short shift shows. Hundreds of other talented fantasy managers populate our Discord. Check out www.gamedaytweets.com to get all the best info from Twitter without having to slog through the rest of the place, including team by team and searchable tweets by player name. Visit that site and the other great sites we use to research our episodes with at Yahoo, Frozen Tools, and Natural Stat Trick. Our intro and outro music was created by Pat Roach. Until we see you next time, play smart and keep your shifts short.